Hello and welcome to this Euclid webinar. I'm François Le Goff, working in the Computational Assessment Unit in ECA as part of the Euclid Product Management team. Today, during this webinar, we will go and have an overview of the April 2020 release of Euclid, which is version 4.14.1. This webinar is also published on the Euclid 6 website. You will find on this page here the recording of the webinar and the presentation, as well as a list of questions and answers asked during this webinar day. This time, the question and answer session is organized using Slido. The Slido session will last until 5 p.m. Eastern European time on the webinar day, which will be the 12th of May. You can decide there to keep your questions anonymous, and we will answer and publish the Q&A pairs during the day. During the day of the webinar, please connect to Slido and use the event code Euclid April 2020. The agenda for today is the following. We start with a short introduction where I will give you an overview of the April 2020 release scope. Then I will hand over to Mark Roberts, my colleague, who will go through some key features included in this release and will do a demo of the article entity or the bulk copy or the new navigation tree for dossiers. And I will end this webinar with some words about the use of Euclid for skip and the Poisson Center's notifications, the status of the transition from the classic interface to the new web interface, and I will give you some other updates at the same time. Let's start with the overview of the April 2020 Euclid release. You have seen already on the Euclid website a news alert that we published on the 4th of May. If you did not receive an email notification about this news alert, you can go on the Euclid website and manage your subscriptions to the mailing list under My Account. This Euclid 6 April 2020 release was released a bit later than planned due to unforeseen issues on the ECA websites. As a reminder, it exists different distributions of Euclid. Although it's one software and one version, it is available in different ways. You can install it on your desktop, your computer, or also deploy it as a server version and share it with multiple users. And you can also subscribe to ECA Cloud Services hosted by ECA if you are users using Euclid under REACH CLP regulation and also under the Waste Framework Directive for skip notifications. You will find the overview of the scope of this release in the release notes published on the Euclid website. And for this release in April 2020, you will have to refer to 3 different sections of the release notes, as we made available 2 intermediate versions to ECA Cloud Services users in January and February this year. So if you want to have a complete overview of the scope of the April 2020 release, please have a look at section 2, 3, and 4 of the release notes published on the Euclid website. Now I will go through some of the key features and key elements introduced by this new release on top of small improvements and other fixes. In this new version, you will have the possibility to copy the entire content of an entity or a substance or a mixture by using the clone feature. By cloning, all the documents of a substance, for example, are copied into a new substance. We have also improved the management of submission types. If you have selected a submission type in the past and you don't use it anymore, or you did it by mistake, you can now delete it from the list. And this will delete also the associated draft dossier header. If in the future you want to reuse a submission type, you can always select it once again from the list. We have also finalized the inventories, including contact and literature references, and you will see a demo later on of the inventory for managing test material. The chemical inventory is not available in a separate user interface, but it's included where relevant in the application, notably under the reference substances where inventories loaded to your Euclid installation can be selected. We have also in this release managed to finalize the category, including the category dossier creation. Next, I will cover some improvements that were introduced for Poison Centers notifications. We have created a simplified classification and labeling form to make it easier to provide this information in Euclid for Poison Centers notifications. You can see on the right side of the screen this simplified format where you can select in one multi-select pick list the relevant hazard categories and statements. And with the use of dynamic content, the selection is added to your document. You can also see that the simplified classification labeling form includes a labeling calculator, which will propose some precautionary statements, for example, and a pictogram based on the hazard category you will have selected in the previous section. In a future release of Euclid, we will also use the simplified classification and labeling document in other submission types than Poison Centers notification. In this release, you can also now view the full content of a Poison Centers notification dossier, including the multilingual fields and the simplified forms, which are displaying only the fields relevant for this context. You will notice in this release that we have aligned the way the user interface is looking for dataset edition and dossier viewing. Now you will find a similar way when looking at datasets or dossiers. Finally, for this slide, we have also re-implemented the DNL calculator, which helps you fill in the toxicological information in rich dossiers, for example. I will continue with some improvements and changes made at the level of the validation assistant rules. For rich, new and improved automated checks have been included, and we have updated some additional rules, updated rules for nanoforms. You will find more information about this evolution of the completeness check on the ECHA website at the link provided in this slide. Additional validation assistant rules have been created as well for skip notifications under the Waste Framework Directive and for Poison Centers notifications. We have also implemented the user settings management. You can now see and access your user information in the web interface. You can view and change your working legal entity, see the list of roles and groups you are associated with, and you can also change your password. Now I will hand over to my colleague, Mark Roberts, who will highlight different key features that are introduced with this new release by doing a demo.
Hello everyone, my name is Mark Roberts. I work in the Euclid team in ECHA, and as part of today's webinar, I would like to show you the major improvements to the Euclid web interface which have been introduced in the latest public release, version 4.14.1. A full list of fixes and improvements can be found in the Euclid release notes from the downloads page of the Euclid website. Firstly, with the latest release, you will see a new dashboard entity named Article. An article will be used to create skip notifications under the Waste Framework Directive, and which is currently being prototyped. The article entity is available only in the web interface of Euclid, so both in the downloadable version of Euclid and in Euclid Cloud. You can watch the skip database prototype webinar for more information, of which there are more details towards the end of this webinar. I will now briefly show you how Euclid facilitates the preparation of a skip dossier using the new article entity. Here I am on the main dashboard of Euclid. A new article entity has been added on the Euclid dashboard and as such is now one of the core parts of Euclid alongside substances and mixtures. In the main page of the article, you will see many familiar features. There are a list of articles displayed, like for substances and mixtures. The lists can be sorted alphabetically or chronologically. It has a distinction between datasets and dossiers, as for substances and mixtures. It has a quick search as well, so you can quickly search your articles. You can search by the main identifiers which are in the list, the article name, and the identifiers, the identifier type, and the identifier ID. There's also the new advanced search, which I will show you more later on, but here this offers additional search criteria to help you find your article. It also has the new clone function, which I will speak a bit more later on as well. As always, you can create new articles by clicking on New Article at the top, or you can delete articles as well. Let's go to an article document. When you are in an article document, you will see again many of the regular features to manage your data, as well as the improvements made in this latest release of Euclid. I can view the dossiers created from this article dataset by clicking on View Dossiers. I can validate the article dataset to make sure the data is consistent and of good quality. I can also create a dossier from the article. In addition, I have the regular operations to export the article as an I6Z file, which means that once exported, I can then re-import that file into any Euclid instance. And I can also create a PDF of the article. The PDF not only gives all the fields and data in this main article document, but also the references made within this document. For instance, in an article, you can reference a complex object, in this case an O-ring, and that O-ring can contain a reference substance. And in the PDF, it will give you that. You can also use the new navigation bar, of which I'll speak more of later, to search for the complex object and its reference substance. So here I'm in the main motorcar X entity. If I expand this, I will get to see the complex object O-ring and its reference substance. I can go to any of these layers by clicking on it. For instance, I can click on the reference substance directly and go straight to that document and edit it as I wish. Finally, there's also the UUID available in the article document. This is the unique identifier for the document, and this has been added everywhere in all entities in Euclid. As you can see, we have a UID here for the reference substance. There'll also be one for the O-ring here, and also for the main article entity here. Okay, moving on. With the latest release of Euclid, you will now be able to view, create, and edit entities in the web interface, such as test materials and literature references. But before I show you this, a quick navigation tip. If you click here to the main dashboard menu, you will see a full range of options where you can navigate to in your Euclid instance. From here, I can go directly to my substances, mixtures, articles. I can also go to other places, such as my template management or my entity management. And it's here I wish to go next. So here are the entities you can now manage in the Euclid web interface. These entities are designed to save you extra work, as they are reusable across your Euclid database. You can enter a reference substance once, for instance, and then link it to your substances, mixtures, articles, and test materials. Let's go to a test material. As you can see, we have here a similar layout as for articles. We have essentially a list of test materials from which we can perform a few actions. We can delete or clone a test material. We can sort chronologically or alphabetically. We can create a new test material by clicking on New Test Material. And we can also do a quick search for a test material. Currently, this is by the test material name. So for instance, if I start writing in test, I will get all the test materials starting with test. If I don't know the beginning of the test material but only know the end, let's say example, I can use a wildcard and then the final word, hit enter, and I can still find the result. Let's go inside the test material. So here, as you can see, there's the regular layout for entities. You can export the file, as Isaac said, to re-import it into Euclid and print the PDF, which includes its references. Here is the UID I mentioned, which is now being put everywhere for all entities in Euclid. And also, using the new navigation tree, you can view the reference substances which are part of the test material. In this case, for instance, if I wish to view ethanol, I can click directly on it and view the ethanol reference substance. And I can simply go back to the main test material if I wish. Okay, now let's go and see a new entity that has been added to the Euclid web interface. This was available in the classic interface, but is now available in the web interface. It's categories. I'm now in the main dashboard menu I was before. Let's click on categories. So here we've got the distinction between datasets and dossiers, because you can create dossiers from categories. Currently, this is only available in the classic interface, but will be implemented in a future release in the web interface. You can search through sorting, and you can filter as well. Like with the test material for categories, you will need to search by the category name. So if I start hitting the beginning of a category, I will be able to find it in the quick search. Also, I can delete or clone a category. If I go inside the category, I can view the dossiers created directly from this category. As I said, this is currently done in the classic interface, not the web interface. And I can export or create the PDF like before. But there are two important things to note in categories, which is maybe useful to you to know. If I go to the category documents section here of the category, you will now see a navigable section tree of the documents you want to use as read across for your category. If I click into this, you will see a section tree appear. I can collapse and expand these different sections. So for instance, I can collapse section 4, 5, and 6. And then I can start deselecting or selecting which sections or subsections or specific documents I want to use as my category read across. Let's say I want to select the entire phys-chem properties for my category read across. I can simply select section 4. Now you will see all of section 4 is selected. If I want to make just a subsection selected, I can deselect section 4 and just select 4.1. If I want to select a specific type of document, such as the appearance, physical state and color endpoint summary, I can select this. On the left-hand side, you'll notice that we have, again, the new navigation tree. Like with articles and test materials, you get to see what is referenced by this entity. If I expand this category entity, importantly, you will see all the members of this category. These members can be seen in the main document here, but this is an easier way to start viewing your members. For instance, for this member called Reach Training Substance X, if I expand it, I can see the entire section tree for this substance. And I can then view the documents within these different sections. For instance, if I want to see the physical state appearance summary inside the Reach Training Substance, I can go directly to it here. And here it is. And if I want to go back, I can simply press the black button. Okay, let's move on. Now I will demo for you the advanced search in datasets. From this version of Euclid onwards, you'll be able to use an advanced search for substance, mixture, and article datasets. To remind you, datasets are editable and are used to prepare a dossier. We will extend the advanced search to dossiers for the October release of Euclid. The criteria for the advanced search was based on direct user feedback from industry and member state competent authorities. We will now show you the advanced search for substances, but the same principles apply to mixtures and articles, but of course using different search criteria. Let's go to the main menu again and click on substances. Let's go to the datasets. Okay, so here we're in the substance list, and on the left-hand side you will notice advanced search. If I click on this, you will see the additional search criteria which are now available to you to search for your substances. Broadly speaking, there are two types of searches that can be performed. The first is a simple search. You can search for one particular field, for instance a substance name or an identifier, and look for the search results by pressing search. The identifiers look in the regulatory program identifiers and the IT system identifiers of section 1.3 of a REACH substance. I know that I have an identifier 123123 as part of one of my substances, and if I search for this, it will come up. It's a dye substance. A second type of search, which is a little bit more complicated, is a search through an entity. You can search, for instance, for a reference substance contained in section 1.1 by selecting a reference substance here. An additional search you can perform to find your reference substance can be done through this quick search, whereby you can search for the key identifiers of a reference substance, namely the reference substance name, CAS number, inventory number, or UPAC name. Let's say I want to search for the UPAC name ethanol. Here it is, and the reference substance name is also ethanol. Now I have ethanol as one of my search criteria. I can indeed search for this and look for the substance. But importantly, I can then add or combine searches to look for different substances. So for instance, if I want to select another reference substance, let's say formaldehyde, I can then search for both. I can search for substances containing both of these reference substances by pressing search, and now I get two substance results. And the same principle applies for other entities. You can search for legal entities and also the constituents, impurities, and additives of your substance composition, as well as a modification date. And then if you want to clear the search, just press clear. Okay, let's move on now to the bulk copy of Euclid documents. As part of the transition to the web interface, we have implemented the useful feature to copy your Euclid documents or records in bulk into your substance or mixture datasets and templates. This feature has been made visually more navigable and easy to use. If you are a frequent user of the classic interface, you will notice that the copy of Euclid documents now takes place from the substance, mixture, or template into which you want to copy, whereas before it was the other way round. Let's go to our mixtures. Let's go to this mixture here, new biocidal product. And to copy, I need to click on these three dots here, and I select Copy Data From. You will then get a list of other mixture datasets in your Euclid database. Notice that the search automatically designates mixtures as your search criterion, but you can also search for substance datasets and templates to search and copy from. When searching for another mixture, you can search by the mixture name, or sort it alphabetically or chronologically. As a small tip, if you do not know the mixture by its name, you can open a new tab in your web browser and search using the advanced search for mixtures, mixture which you want to search for here, and find the name from there. When selecting the mixture you want to copy from, you are then presented with a section tree of that mixture. Let's choose this mixture here, Stereal Aqua. The section tree will mirror the section tree of the mixture into which you are copying. So you can make a direct comparison of what documents are being copied where and make your selection based on the submission context you are in. If you do not have a submission type selected in the mixture you are copying into, then you will see the default complete table of contents with all sections. I can then select or deselect the Euclid documents I wish to copy. I can, for instance, select or deselect individual documents, this, or I can select or deselect entire sections, such as the physchem properties. When I have made my choice, I can simply hit copy, and the selected documents will be copied into my mixture. If I want to copy documents not from a mixture, but from a substance or template, notice that if I choose a substance, such as this one here, the section tree mirrors again, like for the mixture, the section tree which I'm copying into. This again is to help you give you a regulatory context for the bulk copy and to understand what you're copying into the mixture. Another new feature which has been implemented in the web interface is the clone feature. I've mentioned this previously. You can clone from the lists which I showed you earlier, the article list, the substance list, the mixture list. But you can also do a clone directly from the document itself when you're inside. By clicking on the three dots, you can click clone. And here is the default name of the clone document. You can change this if you wish. And you hit clone. And if you open this clone document, this is an exact replica of the document of the dataset you just cloned. The only difference is that it has not been given a submission type. So you need to give it a submission type. And then the navigation tree will look exactly the same as the previous dataset. Okay, let's move on to the navigation tree improvements. The navigation of your substances, mixtures, articles, categories, and other entities has been significantly improved with the latest release of Euclid. Now, when you go to your mixture dossier, for example, you will see on the left-hand side a section tree that contains your link components and entities, and from which you can view directly the corresponding section trees and documents where relevant. Currently, the enhanced navigation is available for substance, mixture, and article dossiers, as well as for entity datasets such as articles, test materials, and categories. The feature is planned to be extended to substance and mixture datasets, as well as templates, in a future release. I will now show you how the navigation tree works for a mixture component of a mixture dossier. Let's go to mixtures and the dossiers which have been created so far. So here, if we focus on the left-hand side, this is the new navigation tree. The first thing to note is that there is a new node at the top of the tree, which represents the dossier header, is here. Second is the main mixture from which the dossier was created. And this can be expanded. And here is the regular navigation or section tree for this biocidal product. Now, importantly, if I go to section 2 into the composition of the biocidal product, I can not only go to the composition of the biocidal product, but I can also view the components of the composition. In this case, I have an active substance component and a mixture component. And I can go to these directly by clicking on the active substance or mixture. And here I'm in the main active substance. But importantly, I can continue to navigate through these components in the navigation tree. If I expand the navigation substance from here, I can then view the section tree for the active substance. Now, as you start digging down into the section tree, it starts to get quite squashed. So you can use these three buttons here to expand the navigation tree so you can have a better view of what you're looking at. And so in the active substance, if we go into section 2, section 2.1, we can go to the main active substance document. And likewise, in this active substance document, there is a reference substance, and I can go to there directly in the navigation tree as well. Okay, let's go to a substance where I wish to show you a few more things about the navigation tree. So I need to go to a dossier. So here again, you can see the top node is the dossier header, and second is the substance or the main substance from which I created the dossier. Now if I open this, you will see the table of contents here like this. But notice there are two additional nodes at the bottom for inherited templates and linked categories. If I open the inherited templates, you will see all the templates that have been used in this substance dossier. For instance, I have the template for the ecotoxicological information, the tox information, and the physchem properties. And I can go to these templates if I wish. Second of all, I get all the categories which have used this substance as a member. I can again go to the category if I wish. And from here, I could, from the main document, go and visit the other category members. But I can also use the navigation tree to do this. If I expand the category, I will then get to see the other category members. In this case, it's the dye substance. And I can go and visit and view all the different sections and documents from the navigation tree. So from one view, you can see all the referenced entities inside your substance dossier. And finally, with the navigation tree, I would like to show you a new feature called View As. If I go to a poison center notification here, which is a mixture-based submission, when I go to various documents, only a subset of information will be presented, which is based on the regulatory context you are in. For instance, if I go to the mixture composition of the poison center notification, the only option I have is to add components. Whereas if I went to the same composition for under the biocidal context, I would get a lot more fields and a lot more data to enter. So this is simplifying the amount of data you need to enter for the poison center notification. Likewise, if I went to the pH document, only 3 key values are given. Either pH is not relevant, the pH value, and the solution concentration, whereas the regular endpoint summary for the pH would be much bigger. And those are all the things I wish to show you today. Please ask your questions in Slido, and we will be happy to answer them. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks a lot, Mark, for this demo and the presentation of the key features. It's François Legoff again, and I will continue to give you some information before we end this webinar. I wanted to come back briefly on the Euclid support for skip notifications under the Waste Framework Directive. You have seen in this webinar that the skip notifications can now also be prepared offline, as we have introduced the new article entity in the Euclid version you can download from the Euclid website. For more information, please consult the skip webpage at this address on the ECHA website. Let's continue also for Poison Centers notifications. You will see that now the standard Euclid user interface published in this new release supports the creation of Poison Centers notification dossiers. So in addition to the guided dossier approach, you now have another way to provide your information for this type of dossier. This new way is also presented in a practical guide that has been published recently, and you will find this practical guide and other information on the Poison Center's website. I would like also to invite you to join the Poison Center's LinkedIn group that has been created this year. Let's continue with some information on the transition to the web interface. This web interface was initially introduced only to ECHA Cloud Services users, but as you know, since October 2018, it's available to all Euclid users. We aim at transitioning from the classic interface to the new web interface in the near future in order to limit the maintenance work on our side and also to provide the best services with one Euclid user interface. And our intention is to discontinue the classic interface usage in October 2020 with the Euclid release that will happen at this time. And this will be for most users. However, we recognize that the classic interface will have to remain available for more advanced features and for system administrators or user managers, for example, until April 2021. You might have seen recently that we issued a survey at the end of last year, and we published the results in February this year, as we want to monitor the adoption rate of the new interface among our users. We have surveyed our different user groups, ECHA, authorities, industry, and others, for example, consultants. And you can see the answering rates for the different groups. What we can conclude from these first results is that although 90% of the ECHA and authorities respondents were using the web interface, it was only 50% of users in industry and other groups that were using this web interface. So we started to draw conclusions based on this survey, and what we will concentrate on in the near future is to continue to implement missing features for the persons who are editing the data, so mainly industry and consultants. And we will also promote the web interface in the near future on the Euclid website. We will reopen this survey to monitor the adoption rate of the new interface later this year, probably in June, to see if the April 2020 release also had an impact, a positive impact in the adoption of the new interface. What is relevant for the transition to the new user interface is to be aware of the remaining scope. So here on this slide, you can see when we plan to finalize the main features of Euclid to fill the gap between the classic interface and the web interface. And by October 2020, we will provide the possibility to perform advanced search for dossiers, bulk deletion and export. We will also give the possibility to view which entities and documents are linked to the entity or document you have selected, to know if links exist between these documents. And we will also implement a PNEC calculator to automatically fill in the information for the ecotoxicological information summary. At the same time, for October 2020, we aim at providing additional improvements, such as a simplified classification and labeling document, including a labeling calculator. We want also to provide the new navigation tree that we introduced in April 2020 to dossiers, but this time for datasets as well. And we will provide also advanced settings for printing dossiers. Then in April 2021, and the end of the transition period, we will implement remaining advanced features, such as the user and role management, but also the inventory manager to clean inventory duplicates, the report manager to upload additional report templates, and we will also work on the advanced import options. At the same time, there will be additional improvements, such as the advanced settings for report generator and validation assistant, and we are also working on the possibility to transfer annotations between dossiers. While we are still working on the web interface, we are aware of performance issues, and this is based on user feedback. Although we have improved the usability, and it's faster to work with small datasets in the web interface. We see that there is still some efforts needed to manage efficiently large datasets and large databases. We have already technical investigations, and we are building prototypes to improve this performance issue. But at the same time, we also wanted to assess the possibility to review the Euclid security model, as this has an impact on the performance. With this aim in mind, we have created a new survey at the end of March to ask users how they use and manage access rights in Euclid. So far, we have received 58 answers, and what we learned from that is that 20% of the respondents were restricting access by Euclid section and restricting access to inventories for their users. At the same time, 12% are using instance-based security. So we will take this information into account to see how this Euclid security model can evolve to, at the same time, provide better performance, but also keep the security features that are used by users currently. We were talking about the web interface scope for the next Euclid releases. I wanted also to highlight that we are preparing format changes for the Euclid October release. You see that Euclid is used for different regulations. Euclid contains harmonized documents internationally, but also at the level of the OECD. We have also users in Australia and New Zealand, and all these users provided their requirements for the evolution of the Euclid format. The new format is being specified as we speak, and you will find the latest draft specifications on the Euclid website. These draft specifications are still evolving, but will be finalized in summer and published officially together with the Euclid release on the 28th of October 2020. Then, last slide before ending the webinar, I wanted to mention also a recent update on the Euclid website. On the 17th of April, we have updated the rich study results dataset. These are data which are non-confidential and that have been collected under the REACH regulation by ECHA. They are now made available in Euclid format, and the data was refreshed recently, and now the information for 23,000 substances are now included. They can now be downloaded as a set of Euclid dossiers, and you will find the full list of dossiers, including the substance identifiers, in an Excel file. You see on this slide also the direct link where you can download this information from the Euclid website. During the day of the webinar on the 12th of May, we will also organize a Q&A session with Slido. You can access this question and answers page at this address and use the event name Euclid April 2020 to join the event. And we will answer the questions during the day and publish them at the same time. Thank you for your attention and for your participation, and see you at the next webinar.